Welcome to Senior Happenings, and my name is Tricia Ayers. I will be your host. Have you ever had those moments where you've either walked into a room and forgotten what you were there for, or I have those things where sometimes the words don't come as fluidly as they should? We're going to talk about, is that normal aging, or is that something that we should look at and be concerned? So I have professionals with me today, and we're going to get into that subject. Firstly, Iman Rose,
hello.
Thank you so much with Purview Life. We appreciate you being here. And then Jessica McCain.
Mancia.
You see, we did this. You see, I hope that's normal aging. I hope it is. Who is Memory Care Director with Primrose Retirement Community. Thank you so much, ladies. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Is what I'm experiencing probably part of normal aging, Jessica?
Yeah, so normal aging, so as we get older, our brains can take a little longer to process or retrieve information. So you might need to make more lists, or you might tell a story twice at dinner. You may forget where you put things, especially, I don't know if you've ever done this, your glasses, you're searching everywhere for them and they end up being on your head. So those type of things, misplacing our keys. If you don't put them in your little spot you have by the door, you tend to, forget where they are and not be able to find them. So, but we can retrace our steps and find those misplaced items.
So it's the important thing is being able to retrace steps and figure out where those items are.
Being able to retrace them is definitely something. Okay. It's pretty normal as we age. So.
But it is. It's quite scary when that starts to happen. You need to take a moment and go, okay, can I retrace? Can I find the word? Can I find the object? Yeah. Not just go into alarm mode.
Yes, ma'am. And we have that little voice still in the back of our minds, like, is this something that's normal, or is this something I need to maybe pay a little bit closer attention to?
Right. So, Iman, please tell us a little bit about Purview Life, because it's a very interesting and somewhat unique to us in Northwest Arkansas. I know you have been in Northwest Arkansas for, is it 3 years?
Just entering our third year, yes.
Yes, so please tell us about Purview Life.
Thank you so much. Purview Life is a life management company, and it really is a difficult concept to put your arms around and understand fully, because we're so used to wonderful communities like yours to help people who are aging. We're used to home care, hospice, home health. So all of these services are more familiar to the community than what life management is. So we have 4 pillars that we go by. The first thing we do is we have a consultation that's very high level consultation. And the reason will come to us for a consultation is because we are very objective and expert. So we help manage emotions and expectations and give solutions, and perhaps someone needs to move into a community like yours and they're hesitating. So really, I always say the technical is expected, but the humanity needs to be remembered. And that is what sometimes is so crucial to families, is to know that humanity is being remembered. So helping manage emotions and expectations. Advocacy is huge. We have a lot of silos in our healthcare system and our benefit system, and people need that one-stop shop that can help them navigate both of those silos, and we do that with our advocacy. We become healthcare power of attorney for people, which a lot of people are so grateful for the service, because they either have loved ones that live very far away, or they are really all alone in the world, and sometimes they have outlived all of their family members. It's hard to believe that that happens, but it truly does. So being named healthcare power of attorney really empowers them to know that someone is going to be talking on their behalf. And lastly, gladly and sadly, we become legal guardians of older adults who have either been exploited financially or have been proven to have harmed themselves by making really horrible decisions, or perhaps special needs person who's 18 and older that needs that guardian to make sure that people stay safe and guarded and valued and honored. So that's the 4 pillars of what Purview Life is. So anything and everything, from simple consultation to guardianship to anything that pertains to giving somebody the best life that they can have. And our tagline says it all. We add life to years.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that to us. I
Well,
appreciate that.
thank you for the question.
So, Primrose Retirement Community, what levels of care do we have there? Because I know it's not just memory care. There's a continuum of care there, really.
So it's that one-stop shop. So we have independent living, excuse me, independent living, we have our assisted living and memory care. So we've had many of our residents shift from independent living to assisted living, and then they move on to memory care, and they still get the same, activities available to them of, stimulating therapeutic activities, outings, everything. The memory care has 24/7 care, individualized care plans, and, everything that goes in to make sure they have that meaningful life that we all want them to have.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And also, you are a director of memory care. So when are those conversations for folks who are in assisted living, where it may be some physical needs to be assisted? I'm sure there's constant monitoring, but when do you have those conversations with, is this normal aging? Or is it something that we need to start looking at to maybe move into your department, as it were, into memory care?
Yeah, so it's important to get to know your residents, really to know how they were and what's normal for them. So really just getting to know them, seeing, their physical mobility, their cognitive, if they're cognizant, and then slowly, if you see any changes, just bringing that up to the families, making sure they all are involved, because that's what we strive for, is
Right.
family involvement. And just having that, compassionate conversation with them and letting them know what we see. And in the end, it's truly up to the families of whether or not they make that transition. But we give them, ample time to make that decision.
Sure,
So.
absolutely. Iman, what are some of the things when you go out to do assessments, your team, how do you distinguish between, because I feel like in my normal environment at home, I can function very well, but sometimes if I were to step out, if I was needing extra care, that would be when I would stumble. But if somebody's coming into my home, maybe, I think I could manage really well.
I think you really hit the nail on the head here, Tricia, because it's really, really confusing to families when we go into a home and we do an assessment. And by the way, our care managers who are nationally board certified to do these objective and expert assessments, we do the assessment, and I would have to say, without exaggeration, probably 8 to 9 times out of 10, the family member is worse off than they seem, for the same exact reason that you said. Because even if you have a diagnosis of dementia, or perhaps you don't have a diagnosis of dementia, but your executive function is malfunctioning, you have crystallized intelligence in that part of your brain, meaning an engineer can be an engineer for a long time because they rely on that crystallized intelligence, on the routine, on what they have done for 80 years. Sure, they can act like a duck, walk like a duck, but not really.
Yep.
We go in and we find out it's not so. A doctor can be a doctor for a long time, a psychiatrist. We've seen it again and again. So what happens is when we go in with the objectivity, we really shed a light on reality. And that's not always so easy. And there's a lot of denial that happens. That's why having the care management part is important, to guide people through those emotions and help them to come to the right decision. So how do we find out is a lot of experience, a lot of discernment, and obviously the objective testing, because numbers don't lie.
Right.
And also because we've done this for so long, like I can't tell you how many times I have walked in on an appointment with one of my care managers, and I'm not kidding you, I walk out and say, oh, she is just so lovely. Yeah, she has dementia. What? What do you mean she has dementia? To the naked eye, to the lay person, I didn't see it.
Right.
But because of the experience of my care managers, they pick up on it right away. And again, they back it up with the objective expert testing that cannot lie.
So Jessica, I know that you came up with some kind of like side-by-side comparisons
Yeah.
of cognitive function or dementia. Could you run through those a little bit for us?
Yeah, so we talked about normal aging. It just takes a little bit longer for us to process, to do things. Even when you're asked a question, it might take us a little bit longer to answer. With dementia, it looks a lot different. Maybe someone you love repeats the same question, 5 times within like an hour of dinner. Maybe they get lost driving to the most familiar places like they've gone to for years. Maybe suddenly they can't follow the steps of their favorite recipe that they've been cooking for forever, or they just stop cooking, altogether. I like to say that I use the clean house as an example, someone that's had a clean home for their entire lives, and somebody walks in and everything, you have little projects going on, but they're unfinished. So it's hard for them to finish a task. So those are more memory lapses, or they're not really memory lapses. They're affecting how someone functions, and really how safe they are, and how confident they feel in their lives. And it's not just their memory even. It can be confusion with time or place. Their moods can shift. You'll see personality changes. Also, misplacing things in the most unusual of places. So, like, I misplace things all the time, but I wouldn't put my keys in the refrigerator, or I wouldn't put them in the cookie jar. Those are more signs of dementia, early dementia, that you may want to, go to the doctor, get it checked out, speak to someone that you trust, start the conversation. They do have those cognitive screening tools out there, and doctors really do care and they want to help you. So there's that line, what you think is normal and what isn't. So it's just important to take that initial step.
Right. And that leads me to my question for both you ladies. I'd like to feel that when we send our loved ones to a professional, should it be our regular general practitioner, or should we take that step to go to somebody who specializes in dementia and Alzheimer's? Are they going to have more of an insight, or is your regular health professional? Do we go to the specialist first, or do we start at the GP?
Go ahead, Jessica, and then I'll follow.
I was just going to say, I think firstly, your PCP is fine. You can do like a cognitive assessment there, but if you want to go to a specialist, you can do MRI scans, more in-depth brain scans to actually see what's going on in the brain.
Okay.
Do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I don't know if you agree with this, and maybe it's just our experience and maybe not yours, and please, help clarify if I'm misspeaking here. I find that a lot of doctors really hesitate to give any kind of a definitive diagnosis if they're just the PCP. It's really, really difficult for them to give that diagnosis. So I think from our experience, a lot of times it goes on a little bit longer because of that hesitation. So if you go to the PCP doctor and you still, know your loved one more than anyone, if you still see red flags, I recommend that you do not wait too long to go to a specialist. So that's just our experience.
Do you think it correlates with, if it's somebody who regularly goes to see their primary care, they're going to see more of a shift, or if it's that person who goes, I go once a year, my provider is not going to know, I don't think.
Right.
don't see
because
them
again, they can mask it. And even with almost mid-stage Alzheimer's, they can really talk like themselves and act like themselves. I can tell you from personal experience, my mom had vascular dementia before she passed. And we almost had a family feud because 2 of my children would literally not recognize the deficiencies that were really ruining her life. 2 of my children, my own children. Well, no, she talked like herself and walked like herself when they saw her for 30 minutes, an hour, even sometimes an hour and a half. So that is the tricky part of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're right. They may not pick up on it. That's why I always say it takes a village. So if you are in a position where, again, you still see red flags, seek other professionals, and it's okay. I think that's the biggest thing, if I may. I hope I'm not going off topic here. Just to give ourselves permission to get help in those situations is the most important part. And sometimes people really hesitate to ask for help because they feel that somehow they're falling short on taking care of their loved ones. But in reality, sometimes we, and again, being the daughter of someone who had vascular dementia, we ourselves need help so we can help them. So I think if I can impart any kind of advice, please don't hesitate to get help. Go to as many resources as you can till you resolve the issue, because chances are you're going to sit in denial for a minute, and that's okay as long as you don't stay there too long.
Right.
But please get help. There is no shame in getting help.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a pause right now, and we'll be right back. I'm so enjoying this conversation, and we're going to jump back into it to see whether I'm just having a little cognitive dysfunction here or I need to go check it out. We'll be back momentarily.
Experience the Macadoodle's difference. Shop leisurely in our friendly and spacious store 7 days a week. Browse our wine cellar. We offer the top labels and hot new wines. Wide aisles, hardwood floors, and easy-to-find, well-lit displays make shopping enjoyable. Customers are our #1 priority. If you can't find something, our courteous staff will assist you, and we'll even help you to your car with your purchase. World-class customer service. Largest and best selection in the area. Low prices. Experience the Macadoodle's difference today.
Welcome back from the break. We had great discussion in our first half, and we're going to get back into that. So today we're talking about the aspects of, is it cognitive dysfunction or, normal aging, or are there signs there that we are heading towards maybe a dementia diagnosis? So Jessica, you're on the forefront there because you're there with all your wonderful folks in your community that are needing memory care, and it's tough. When do you think it's too early to start on that avenue of visiting memory cares and seeing what is available? Because I'm sure you see a wide range of people in your community.
Yeah, so I don't think it's ever too early to start. I mean, first of all, start that conversation as early as possible. It opens up avenues. You have more options. You can get your family financials in place, doctors, support systems, which is important to have. You need to have your tribe. It takes a village. There's such thing as caregiver burnout, so making sure you're there to help and assist with your loved one that has been diagnosed with dementia, but also making sure you're taking care of yourself. And that's the biggest thing, because we cannot do it on our own.
No.
There are so many resources out there, but I really don't think it's ever too early to start memory care. In the beginning stages of dementia, those individuals are more independent, so really it's just keeping them, they say whatever is brain healthy is heart healthy, so keeping them on a healthy diet, physical exercise, brain stimulation activities are a big plus. That's something that we do at Primrose on our Silver Lakes Memory Care neighborhood. Therapeutic activities, including brain games, just sensory, tactile activities, things like that, to keep their minds strong.
And I love that
in
you
those
said
beginning stages.
Neighborhood.
Yes, neighborhood.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's our little neighborhood on our Primrose community. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I know I was somewhere where they were telling me to brush my teeth with the opposite hand, just do all those kind of things that are second nature to spark those.
Learning a new language or practicing a language that you may know, just keeping those things that you've learned going.
Right, absolutely. So within Primrose and your community, what kind of activities do you do?
We do many activities.
Okay.
So we not only do activities outside of Primrose, but we do social hours, ice cream socials, you name it, things that are going to bring everybody together and start the discussions, because it's important to keep going.
Absolutely.
And those interactions are important. Physical exercise, spiritual activities, emotional activities, whether it's, smelling baked goods that you maybe have grown up with your entire life, and it just brings back that memory. Reminiscent activities, old occupations, what they may have done in the past,
Right.
keeping those intact. Purposeful activities, whether we're making things for, the dog shelters around, just giving them some purpose and bringing value to their lives. So we do
Absolutely.
many activities that, just because someone has been diagnosed with dementia doesn't mean we stop living a meaningful life. We just shift in the way that we support it.
And I think that's why it's important to visit communities, because I think some people have in their mind that when you say memory care, that everybody's just sitting around doing nothing with the heat turned up. And that's,
There's definitely a stigma behind memory care, and that's why
Absolutely.
we love for anybody and everybody to just come take a tour, come check it out.
Right. Absolutely.
Your view changes once you do that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Iman, I'm going to put you on the spot here now,
Sure.
because knowing what your company does and what you do, how do you deal with, okay, you have a client and you're acting for the family who's probably out of state, because we see that a lot these days. When the client needs to go into memory care, but the family, like your family, are like, no, mom's great. She just needs more care, but not that kind of care.
Right.
How do you have those conversations?
I think experience is key here. And I think education is also key here. So I can tell you that it's very hard for family members to physically take that person. I think a lot of it is the anticipation. Have you ever had such huge anticipation about going to the dentist? I know I do. But then once you get there, it's not nearly as bad as you thought it was. So that's the kind of emotions that we help them with. I can tell you again from personal experience, I turned to my care manager who took my mom to lunch, who took her to the assisted living facility and helped manage the whole process. I could stay the loving daughter. I was not the bad guy. I was not the person who took my mom. So that is something that we take off of their plate, is that we can do the dirty work for them. We can fall on the sword and they can keep their relationship lovingly with their loved one. And it works because, again, people that have dementia or mainly dementia in this case, they're not going to stay mad at you for very long, but the family doesn't understand that. So again, it's just walking them through the steps, holding their hand through the journey, managing their expectations, and actually doing the work for them if they choose to. Again, as Jessica said, it ultimately is up to the family on what they want. But I think it is our job to really educate them, because people don't know what they don't know.
Right. You're absolutely right. And Jessica, you were talking about tribe. It must be more helpful to you in the community and to the person who's coming in if there's a bigger tribe who is supporting their family member, rather than, I know in our office, it's a lot of times there's no family around and it's a couple, and just the emotional draining of putting your loved one, who people have been married for 60 years, into where is the best place to manage their diagnosis and also for that person to be the spouse again. But it's really hard if it's just that couple. It's so much more helpful if it's the kids and there's regular people visiting. How do you help in that process? Because that I think is the biggest stumbling block for people.
Yeah, so whenever we have families move into our memory care community, they always ask, can I come visit? Can I bring mom out? Can I take her to dinner? Yes, and yes. We want families to be involved. We are walking in this together with them. They know them the best. They have been their loved ones for years. We want them to be involved, be a part of that care plan process. let us know the little things that they know about them. We want them to be involved as possible. We want them to come in and just hang out, spend the day with mom. So mom or dad, they don't feel like they're being left behind. Because to them, we are staff. I think they eventually look at us differently, but they don't want to be left. You know, it takes a minute for them to realize this is home. This is where I live now.
Right.
I still want my family members to come live with me. So it's important for them to stay involved, and that makes that whole transition a lot easier for them.
Absolutely. It's just very hard. It's hard.
It is.
But once they've taken that step, I think it's so much more beneficial. It really is. And you can be the daughter again and the spouse. I think that's a big stumbling block. Going back to, is it cognitive or is it dementia? How those first steps, educational materials, absolutely. I know that, Iman, you guys at Purview Life have this guide that you put out, and I'm sure Jessica has a lot of educational material, and I know that, you know, this goes out on YouTube also, so we'll put that out there for anybody who's watching so they can download that educational material. But couples, should we go through this? You know, when people are at home, should they get the educational material and just kind of give themselves a little checklist? I mean, how?
Well, if I may, just to be clear and not to cause any confusion for the audience here. Everything Jessica said earlier is so true about when we have normal aging, we can retrace, we can retreat. Let's not confuse executive dysfunction. That's not normal aging.
Okay.
So dementia and executive dysfunction is not normal aging, right? So we can look at dementia as like a file cabinet, right? You have all of your memory, everything is in there. Executive function is that almost like manager that knows how to pull the right file at the right time for the right task. It's kind of like the air traffic controller of your brain. And if that gets a little bit skewed, you don't have to have a diagnosis of dementia to be at risk of executive dysfunction. So that is not normal aging, and that's what I really want to make clear.
Okay. I'm going to have to go through this checklist again then, because I may be on the verge here. So.
No.
But it's just, it goes back to please educate. And I love that you ladies are here giving us educational tools. That's what it takes. It takes people seeing that and catching, oh, you know, mom is showing signs of this, or dad is, maybe we should look at the next steps and know what is out there. I know all of you ladies and myself where I work see folks who have left it way too late and have to make decisions in crisis.
Not waiting for that.
And we don't want that.
Right, and you're right, because a lot of time people will call us and they'll say, can you help us get power of attorney for mom? We're checking her out of the psychiatric hospital today. And we're like, well, could you please call Todd Watley? Because that ship has sailed.
Right.
We can no longer do a power of attorney. Again, people don't know what they don't know. You need to go talk to Todd about the legal steps to take to safeguard your mom. And he perhaps may recommend that you get guardianship at this point in time. Obviously, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to misspeak, but definitely getting your legals will make your life so much easier. Because if you don't have your legals in place, you are going to suffer, I promise.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that is kind of why it's important to take, watch for those signs early and get that diagnosis early so you can put those plans in place so you're not waiting for a crisis moment when you're scrambling and trying to get everything together.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is night and day. Your experience with your aging loved one, having your legal in place versus not, it honestly is night and day. We see it all the time.
Right, absolutely. So go educate yourself, go get your legal stuff in place. Thank you, Iman, for saying that, and Jessica. And ladies, we have come to the end of the show. That went very quickly. I feel like we should rejoin and do this in another few months. Jessica, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I encourage people to come to Primrose Retirement Community. It's a wonderful community. come and schedule a lunch or something. I'm sure Jessica would love to show you around the memory care neighborhood. And also, Iman, thank you.
Thank you,
Purview
Tricia.
Life. Everybody go online and go look and see all the amazing things that Purview Life can do for you. Have those plans in place. And I thank you, and I will see you next time on Senior Happenings.